No worries at all. Does the chat feature work?
It does.
Perfect. That's what I need.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is your specialist masterclass speaker speaking, the one and only James Gee, founder and CEO of Sales Confidence. But I'm glad today that we have got himself, the main man, Bryan, from Salesloft. And Bryan is going to be talking about personalization and how you can use personalization at each stage of the sales process. So before we get going, I just want to know where you're dialing in from. So can you let me know in the chat? Sonia, on time as always. Andrew, on time. Tamia, Vitali, Bryan, obviously here. I'm just going to let everybody get in for a couple of minutes before we sort out the viewing spectacle that we've got in front of us. And then we're going to hand over to Bryan to nail the content with what we're going to be talking about today. Now, I'm a big believer that this is an important subject no matter what stage you are in your career. And also, I'm a believer that if you're leading a team, this is just as important. Yet, despite many of our leaders will probably push this one to the side today because they think it's not relevant for them. Well, that's rubbish. It is relevant for them because they need to coach and develop their sales teams. And I can see Andrew dialed in to support his team, which is fantastic. So, just to give you a bit of background, Bryan's going to be covering topics about improving open rates, getting a boost in email reply rates, doing personalization to relevant accounts by only researching in 90 seconds. He's going to be talking about doubling the amount of call connects. Vitali, we want that. So, is it Mulry?
It is. It's Mulry. Yes. Look, it's
Yes,
one of those
Bryan
weird West
Mulry.
of Ireland names.
It is Amir's newest account manager for Salesloft, having joined the team in 2021 as an SDR. He looks after the Amir's team's SMB segment of customers and makes sure they are successful with the platform and have the right contract agreements in place. He spent 2.5 years as a top performing SDR with Google and now Salesloft, and has distilled some of his key advice and strategies to help our members personalize outreach. Please note, you don't have to have a sales engagement tool to do this. You just need to be smart. You just need to take action. You just need to personalize. So I'm going to hand it over to you. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Well, look, it's good to meet all of you. I see a bunch of names here on the participant side that I haven't seen before, so it's good to meet you all. I'm Bryan. As James said, I was an SDR for 2.5 years. I've recently been promoted to an account manager internally inside of Salesloft. For those of you who don't know Salesloft, it's a sales engagement platform. It helps sales reps be more efficient. And I've used that platform to build a system to be personalized and relevant at every stage of a sales journey. Most of my background comes from booking meetings. Over the last couple of weeks, I've had to do absolutely every element from reselling things to closing deals to renewals. And I've been using elements of this system at every stage, from booking meetings to closing deals to negotiation to renewals. What we're going to look at today is a bunch of different things. I can't really see the chat as we go on, but we will have pit stops built in to this
Yeah.
presentation. Or what we'll
Bryan,
do
I
is
can
we'll go
pit
through.
stop the chat. So, like, if I start
Perfect.
noticing questions coming in, I'll fire them over to you.
So I've built a couple of pit stops into the presentation that we're going to look at today. So those would be good times to sort of ask specific questions. One thing I will ask, I'm a young Irish guy with a thick Irish accent. If you can't understand me at any stage of today's conversation, shout at James. James will shout at me. But with that, look, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start sharing my screen. Now, one of the things that happens whenever I start to share my screen is people's eyes go to their other screens. We end up looking at completely different things. What we're going to look at today is a bunch of different things, but essentially it's going to be how to book more meetings. We're going to look at emails, and I'm going to show you what trigger templates are. We may look at cadences, but I am going to make sure that you look at how to double call connect rates and how to use multiple channels across the entire sales organization. And then there will be time for questions at the end. As James said, you will get the recording, and we'll take pit stops as we go through for questions. So do write them down as they come to you. Main thing, you do not need a sales engagement tool to action what I'm about to show you. It is better if you have one, And if anyone needs me to sell them one, I'd be very happy to introduce you to the right people inside of Salesloft. But what I'm going to show you today, you do not need a sales engagement tool for it. The reason that I've picked up slides when I absolutely hate using slides is what we use inside it. What happens inside of Salesloft is people use the Salesloft platform to send emails, calls, and LinkedIn steps all day, every day. And through that, we've been able to run a level of data analysis across this to pick out best practices when it comes to sending messages and being personalized at scale. What I'm going to show you first is all of the results typically attached to emails and how you can boost your email reply rates and boost your email open rates. That's because emails are easiest to track. Using these rules, then we're going to come up with a system of how to be personalized and relevant at scale. And then you can use that system across multiple channels, not just emails, but LinkedIn calls, LinkedIn steps, calls, videos, content, etc. What you're going to walk away from this conversation with is maybe a new system for how to tackle your book of business, but also insights into how you can be personalized and relevant very, very quickly on a large scale. So let's crack into it. Next couple of slides are going to be essentially the rules that we use to come up with our messaging that we want to use when we're trying to reach out to people. And the main thing that we're going to be looking at today is personalization, but personalization at scale. We all know that personalization is very, very important, but not many people realize just how important it is. We see a 300% increase in email reply rates when you go from no personalization to just 25% personalization. That is one sentence in every 4 that you send. And to do that, you get a 300% increase in email reply rates. So we all know that personalization is very, very important, but not many people realize that it means you are 300% more responses, almost 3 times as many. However, this does not mean that you need to be personalized to the person's dog or their hobby or where they came from. I'll show you how you can be personalized and relevant to what's happening to them in their business at the right points in the sales journey. But now that we know that we need to be personalized, why do we need to be personalized? Well, the reason we need to be personalized is because most emails look like this. Dear John, our best-in-class solution delivers ROI to companies like you. Most sales emails look like this. And the reason that they look like this is because they're all about the seller. They're all about the seller and their solution. Now we see a drop in reply rates when people use the words best in class. We work with companies like an ROI of 63, 41, and 50%. Not because these words are bad, not because these words are taboo, but it's because when you're talking about something being best in class, you're probably talking about yourself. When we work with companies like, it's there under the word we, you're talking about yourself. And when you use ROI, you're probably not talking about the ROI that their solution gives you. You're talking about the ROI that other people have had using you. This is a generic sales email, and this is what most people do, is they come up with they spend a lot of time crafting their message about who they are, and then they send it to as many people as possible. Nobody cares. And I understand that nobody cares, but me telling you that won't actually help you. The best way to think about this is that your solution doesn't do anything. It doesn't actually do a single thing. I can confidently tell all of my prospects that Salesloft doesn't do anything. However, they can use Salesloft to book more meetings, have better sales conversations, and shorten the deal cycle. We are not the solution to their problem. We are the tool that they will use to tackle their problem. No one's going to buy into a story where they're the sidekick. They're not the sidekick where while you go and slay the dragon, you're the sword that they use to slay the dragon. And in that's the story that they have in their own heads. And that's the story that we sell to people, to be able to understand that you're not talking about yourself. You're talking about how people use your product to get the results that they need. That's the main mindset switch that sellers need to go into when they're talking about being personalized at scale. I'll show what that looks like specifically in a little while. But when it comes to operationalizing this, here are some key takeaways and key learnings that we learned when we ran our data science project. The first one is that you should keep your subject lines to less than 4 words. So you are better off sending an email with no subject line than one with 6 words in it, based on how we boost our reply rate. Reason being, we want our emails to look like text. People read the first 200 characters of an email. And if you're taking up the 200 characters with your subject lines, then they're not getting into the body of the email. So the key takeaway for this is keep your subject lines to less than 4 words. Easiest tip for this is just use the word your. Start with the word your, Y-O-U-R. Your new sales reps, your new IT system, your cybersecurity, whatever. And once you get into the habit of starting that, get rid of the your and put a question mark at the end. New reps, question mark, cybersecurity, question mark, new IT system, question mark. And that's how you go from 5 words to 4 words to 3 to 2 to 1. So this is the first rule that we will use, shortening the subject lines. This is how we'll get people to open the emails. However, once they open the emails, we need them to respond. And to do that, we need to keep our copy to less than 100 words. Now, this is the hardest thing for sellers to do. It is to keep the copy to less than 100 words. But as you can see, if you cross into the 101 word threshold, you get a almost 24% drop in email reply rates. But if you can keep it to less than 100, you get anywhere between an 18 to a 45% boost in those reply rates. Why? 2 reasons. One, we want everything to look like text. It's a text world, specifically for the C-suite that we are reaching out to. We want our emails to look like text and be easily digestible very, very quickly. We want people to be able to look at it, look at a message and reply to it now, rather than put it in the I'll do that later box. That's the first step. Second reason as to why we need to shorten our copy is this device size that we have access to is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. 20 years ago, it was all on laptops. 5 years ago, it was all on mobile phones. Our VP of Enterprise Sales reads his emails on a smartwatch. So I don't even have his phone screen anymore. All I have is the number of characters that fit into his smartwatch for him to decide whether it's an email worth opening and replying to. So we need to keep our copy to less than 100 words. And I'll show you how to do that in a little while. With those words, however, we need to keep the language level as low as possible. Now, this is a bit Americanized, right? But essentially, if a 12-year-old can understand and reply to your message, you see a 62% boost in reply rates. If they have to be 18, 19 to be able to understand your message on a language level and be able to respond, then it's a 45% drop. And the problem is we all have a writing voice and a speaking voice. And especially those of us who've come out of college, and a lot of you, if your sales teams are full of young SDRs just out of college, their writing voice is really academic. I never ever spoke the words thereafter before writing one of my first sales emails selling to CTOs in Google Cloud, because that's what I was used to doing with my writing voice. So one of the tips that I give to SDRs in this space is when they're writing their emails, you actually use speak to text on a phone or on a laptop. Say what you need to say. Allow it to type it out. That's your language level. And then you can edit it to make it more readable and things like that. But try and use your spoken voice when writing these emails. Now, I'm throwing a lot at you, but when it comes to personalization and being specific to the person, we have 2 rules. The first one is that we front load our personalization. So like I said, most people will only read the first 200 characters of an email before they decide what to do next. And we need to put that personalization in the very, very beginning. Reason being is this is what people see when they look at their phones. They see the first 200 characters, and this is where they decide whether they're going to select it and delete it or leave it unselected and open it later. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a massive musical theater fan. It's just one of my things, probably one of the reasons I moved to London. And the only people who were selling things to me as an SDR were recruiters. They wanted to sell me jobs. Now, I've had emails that say, hey, Bryan, I have this incredible job for you, and I'm a massive musical theater fan. What do you think of Jason Robert Brown? And what I see here is, hi, Bryan, I have this incredible job for you, and I know what they want. I know what they need. I don't think they've done any personalization. I delete it. However, if I get an email that says, hi, Bryan, I'm a massive musical theater fan, and I also have this incredible job for you, come work for someone else. I'm not deleting that email because it's relevant and personalized to me in the little instance that I have, and I know that I can come back to it later. So we need to front load our personalization so that people don't screen out our emails. However, we only personalize the first 20% of an email, no more. So one of the tests that we ran was we wanted to see whether there was a correlation between reply rates and personalization put into the emails. And we found that at a 20% personalization rate, we get just under 7% email replies. If you go to 80% personalization, put all that effort in, you get a 7.5% email reply rate. We say that to sacrifice 0.5% of email reply rates, you should save time and only personalize 20% of your emails. That then means that the other 80% is a template. And that is what we will use all of these different rules to work out and to create. So before we crack into the pit stop and answer any quick questions, the main thing that you need to get out of the last 10 minutes that I've been talking is personalization is really, really important, so much so that you could triple your pipeline just by doing so. However, you don't have to be personalized to, specifically to that person, to personalize to their situation. A lot of messages fail because they're about you and not about your customers. And it's about what you do rather than what people use you to do. That's the main pitfall. When you're sending emails, keep your subject lines to less than 400 four words in the subject line. Have less than 100 words in your copy. Have those words be as low language level as possible so that a child can understand them. Front load your personalization, but keep it to the first 20% of the email. Now, those are the main rules that we're going to show you in this system that we're going to be using. I'm going to stop here for a moment, and I'm going to check and see if anybody has any specific questions on those. What's the subject line that's giving me the highest open rate? So one of the things that we do internally in Salesloft is one of the main reasons that people need us is they have aggressive growth targets. That's one of the main reasons why people need us. You have high growth targets, but less reps to do it. You need to make your existing sellers more efficient. So you need a tool to do that. The subject line that Guy gave me the highest open rate was the word aggressive, question mark. It was just one word. It was relevant to the first line of the email. Say, I'll show you what that looks like later, but it had the word aggressive in it. Yeah, it was just a one word thing. Kevin, your mom is from Kerry. I'm a Galway man. We need to connect. When it comes to templates, do I have different ones for different buyer personas, challenges, pain, goals? You're one step ahead of me, Prasanna. I will show you what this whole process looks like in a second. Short answer is yes for challenges, pains, and goals. Not necessarily for personas, but you can build your system in a slightly different way if you need to. All right, I'm going to crack on now and show you exactly how it works, what we do to make this work. So what I'm going to talk about now are trigger templates. This will be particularly useful for anyone who sells to sellers. But this is what it looks like. The whole system that we talked about is built around a thing called trigger templates. Now, a trigger template essentially is a pre-written message that answers the question, what is happening in this company that suddenly makes your solution relevant now? Why would someone need to buy you now? You write a template around that, and that is the structure with which you plan your outbound selling strategy. The best way I can explain this is by using Salesloft examples. So for example, Salesloft helps sellers be more efficient, ramp their reps quicker, and book more meetings. Now we're also a full cycle seller, so if you need to close more deals or reduce churn, that's also something that we are specifically designed for. What we do is we go as SDRs and ask our AEs, tell me about the last 3 deals that you closed and why they bought now. the AEs start by saying it's because I'm an incredible AE and I run an incredible deal cycle, Brian. And once we get through that answer, they then tell us the real reason why someone bought now. And the reasons that people are buying Salesloft is because they were hiring sellers, they've got high growth targets and need to make their sellers more efficient. They announced a funding round, and as a result, they committed to high sales targets and needed to make their existing sales team more efficient to hit these high sales targets. We've got a lot of full cycle reps who don't prospect, but in a down economy, you need your full cycle sellers to do more prospecting. And as a result, you need to make that prospecting process more efficient. Or they run a lot of marketing events and they need to convert as many marketing leads as possible. These were all triggers, were all reasons that people were buying Salesloft. So you then turn those triggers into messages and go to market with something that you know is already working based on the end of your funnel. How do you do that? Well, you pick one of these three email templates. This is the standard one that I would recommend for anyone getting started. Essentially, it's like, look, I saw this was happening in your company. I get the feeling you have X problem, name. It's a quick side note. Put their name at the end of the first line. Don't put it at the first. Don't put it at the beginning. Reason being is if you look at these emails here, it goes, hey, hello, John. Hi, John. You've just wasted 5% of the first 200 characters that you get access to. So if your email reads, so you're hiring a bunch of sellers, John, safe to assume that you've got high growth targets for this year. You're not wasting those five characters. Anyway, I digress. Normally, people like you in this position need to get something in order to avoid a specific pain. Most are asking a specific question. People like you use us to get this result that they need. Is that worth looking into, Maya? Now, that's a standard trigger template where it has everything to do with what's happening to them and nothing about you. You could also use a thing called Marcus's F. Marcus Olds is our commercial of sales, a VP of commercial sales in EMEA. He won't read an email unless it looks like the letter F. So it's a long line that looks like this, and then a little small line, and then another long line, but not as long as the first, call to action and their name. And you have to be able to read it in less than 20 seconds. I'll show you how to write those in a second as well. And if anybody isn't following Josh Braun, I would highly recommend just getting on his email newsletter. He's very, very, very good at his email copywriting. This is just one that I stole, and then you can just convert this into something that is relevant to you, given the format that he has. So this is all great in theory. Let me show you what it looks like. At the beginning of Q3, all the Salesloft got together. So Salesloft SDRs got together, asked our AEs to figure out what their triggers were, and went and created a list of triggers. Before our QBRs, we then put them all down in a document and started to write the trigger templates together. I'll show you one of mine so I don't out any of my colleagues. This was one. The reason that people were buying us was because they were growing quickly. They had aggressive sales targets and needed to make their existing sellers more effective. So we wrote a trigger template around that, something we knew was working in the market. How do I know if it matches any of the rules? You just go to wordcounter.net and write it in there. So this one has 80 words, so I'm under my 100 word limit. The reading level is a little bit higher than I want, but I'm okay with this reading level at where I'm at, and my reading time is less than 18 seconds. So I know it does exactly what I need it to do. We then got together and applied these rules to every single one of these triggers. And then, because we had a sales engagement tool, we plugged them into Salesloft. This is where they sat. We were then able to track which ones were working and which ones weren't working. And then when the market started to change, we saw a drop in response rates to some trigger templates. So we knew that they would stop working, so we went looking for other ones. Now, how to operationalize this is you get your reps together, you ask your AEs, tell me about the last 3 deals you closed. What were the problems that people needed to solve? What was happening in that company? And now, when you're doing account research, this is what you're looking for. If a company's hiring sellers, they're growing quickly, they've got a recent funding round, they're probably a tier one account. If they're not showing any of these signs, they're probably not, they probably don't need you right now. And to show you what this looks like on a day-to-day basis, I'm actually going to show you live what an SDR would do in this scenario. So to do that, I'm going to target one of you guys, Kevin, my Irish friend. Let's see where you work. All right, Kevin. Paperfly. I'm not certain if you guys are Salesloft customers. But let me show you what happens if I decide that Paperfly is a company that I want to target. I'm straight on LinkedIn. I'm straight on your website. And it is now 26 minutes past. I will show you how long it takes me to build 3 hypotheses around this business, given the trigger templates that I have. So as an SDR, I hit the website, I scroll all the way down to the bottom and try and figure out what's going on the career side. I then scroll up slightly and I want to see what other companies you're working with. Cool. That's one. You're selling to large enterprise companies. There you go. That's one trigger. Number 2, open positions. I don't believe so. Those are in development, so you're not hiring sellers. Stopped hiring. That's 2 triggers. Paperfly. Insights. So you guys were growing, but growth has started to plateau a little bit on the headcount wise. That's 3. Actually, it's not in here because it came about later in the year for us, but that's a 3rd trigger template. Within 60 seconds, I now have 3 things to tackle senior sales leadership in Paperfly with things that are relevant to their company, with messaging that I know has closed business for us in the past. Then, when I go back to Kevin, what I'm doing now as a sales rep, and seeing as you're a sales director, what I'm doing now as a sales rep is I'm trying to match and see if there's anything specific that I can match those triggers or those potential hypotheses with here. So I like to look at this from a normal LinkedIn profile. Kevin, this is incoming, by the way. Don't worry, I'm an account manager. I can't sell you anything new anymore. But if I'm on here, let's see if there's anything specific that I personally would have for you. You post a lot on LinkedIn, so I would probably make sure that I'm commenting on your LinkedIn steps. Oh, you've been in Kenya, Dubai, and Kuwait. So actually, do you know what? Does it tell me anywhere that you're? No, I can't find the Irish part here, so I'd be cheating then with that meta knowledge. But if I weren't cheating, my email subject line to you would be Kenya, Kuwait, and Kerry. You're opening that email if it's Kenya, Kuwait, and Kerry. And then my email to you would be something along the lines of, I imagine you've seen a lot of the world, having gone from Kenya, Kuwait, and Kerry. However, I can't imagine you've seen any hardships as tough as selling to enterprise right now. I've noticed that your team target the enterprise space, selling to IBM, Mercedes, and Mondelez. It's 65% harder to get a reply from businesses over 1K employees. That makes growing pipeline, and then sales directors are always asking the teams to get more stakeholders in a deal. That means that reps sacrifice quality for quantity. We help with that. Is that worth exploring? Thanks, Brian. That's now a hyper-personalized message to something that is relevant to what's happening in your industry. And my job as a sales rep, all I had to do was find something on your LinkedIn or about you that might connect with that and make it more personal. If I hadn't found it, this message or a variation of it should still resonate with you because you're targeting large, hard-to-reach enterprise companies. That is how you then build a system and a workflow so that your reps are spending their time being creative, sitting on LinkedIn profiles, trying to match connections, trying to figure things out. rather than spending all their time hitting a website and going, all right, what's happening in this company? What's going on with them? Why are they, how can I match my value proposition to them? That's how you build a a system that SDRs can use, and then you can use those hypotheses over and over again as the deal cycle goes out. So for example, let's say Kevin and I had a conversation as an SDR, and you were targeting large hard to reach enterprise companies, and you needed your reps to multi-thread and win more stakeholders in existing businesses. Cool. I I create my opportunity, I kick you down the line to my account exec, they show you a demo, they have a great time. And then, because of my notes on the system, the AE can come back to you later on in the deal and go, hey, by the way, I noticed that headcount growth has started to slow down. You guys stopped hiring sales reps. Uh, Normally, people in that position need their reps to be more efficient. They need to help their existing reps book more meetings. How are you guys doing that? And all of a sudden, with one simple hypothesis, you're either telling them, no, my reps are fine, or yes, and my rep is now bringing you down a new line of different products you could buy inside of Salesloft. These hypotheses will come up over and over and over again as the deal cycle goes in to expand different areas. But that's how it works. In a minute, I'll show you how to operationalize that. But I've just thrown a lot at you of an entirely new way of selling for some of you. Does anybody have any questions on that specific piece before I show you how to operationalize it through something like a cadence? Thanks, Kevin. I'm glad you'd open the email.
Bryan, this is absolutely gold, mate. You've come a long way since when you started Salesloft. Very well structured, very clear, very well organised. So thanks for putting this together, mate.
No worries. I appreciate it. Nobody has any questions? I'll show you how to operationalize that. Cool. If you do, James, shout at me as per usual. So here's what we've got then. Let me show you how. Now look, Outreach call these sequences. I believe HubSpot's all call these sequences. We call them cadences. Some people call them pathways. Essentially, what a cadence is a journey. Sorry, different kind of journey. Some jokes in this are just for me. That was one of them that was in this just for me. The reason that we create these sort of outbound customer journeys is because in 2007, it took 3 to 4 touches to get a response from someone on the C-suite. In 2015, it was 10. Back in 2020, it was about 15 to 20. Now it's somewhere in and around 22 to 24 touches to get a response. The reason we build cadences is to make sure that we are being persistent, consistent, personalized, and relevant 22, 23, 24 times. It's not like you're going to send the same email again over and over and over and over again, and then they'll just reply to you because you hit the magic number of number 22. You have to be personalized for longer, and that's why we build out cadences. Now, the main thing about cadences is that it's not just one channel. It's not an automated email sequence that just goes out. That's marketing automation. That's not what cadences are for. It's for multiple channels. You have to be hitting people on email, LinkedIn, phone, maybe direct mail if you want to use something like a reach desk, using content, using videos. And we see almost 5 times more prospect engagement when you use multiple channels versus using just one single channel. Again, it's because most reps are simply using one channel. Don't forget that you need to be pleasantly persistent. So it usually takes between 14 and 15 touches to target somebody, and that comes over 24 to 26 business days. This has actually gone up since the economic downturn. This data comes from the good times in tech, so it actually takes longer now. But this still remains the same. 24 to 26 business days. That's 5 to 6 weeks. How are you going to provide value over 5 to 6 weeks? Well, there's a couple of different ways to do that. But the easiest way is to divide your cadence up via triggers. So if you know that you need to target someone 15 times, your first 5 steps are based off of hypothesis number 1. Your next 5 steps, steps 6 to 10, based off hypothesis number 2. 11 to 15, hypothesis number 3, etc. And as you build out these hypotheses and figure out which ones are relevant to each customer, let's say I was reaching out to Kevin, and I reached out and saw that, hey, they'd stopped hiring sellers. Well, and I sent all those emails and made those calls, and I was ignored, and sent the videos and did all the stuff, and I was ignored. What am I going to do next? Well, I'm going to start talking about targeting large hard to reach enterprise companies. And then I'm going to talk about having full cycle reps on the team. And if I go through 3 hypotheses and I'm getting opens and the problem's on a technical side and none of my messaging is resonating, then either Kevin's a bad fit or my messaging is wrong. And if it's happening to everyone, then it's me. And if it's happening to one person, then it's them. But that's how you can build out these cadences to make sure that you're being fresh and relevant. It also means that reps are less apprehensive about writing less than 100-word emails. Because what I know about the business, I know a lot about Paperfly very quickly in this scenario. If I put all that into one email and then just bumped it 15 times, there's no value being provided there. But if I'm thinking about my journey and I'm annoyed, I'm an SDR, I'm impatient, I'm 13 steps in, I've had nobody's replying to my calls, my emails haven't been replied to, my videos have been watched, but nobody's looking at or nobody's replying to them, I can get disheartened and just start sending out crap. Or I can know that I'm only 2/3 of the way through this journey as to where people usually respond, and putting in the effort now is actually a good thing. So that's why we build out our cadences this way. And we build them around the triggers that we talked about. One of the things you have to make sure you're doing is you're touching people on different channels on more than one day. So it's not email on day 1, phone call on day 2, LinkedIn step on day 3, bump email day 4. You have to make sure that you're targeting people multiple times. When I was an SDR, on day 1, they would get a video from me via email. They would get a LinkedIn connection request. If they posted within the last week, they got a like and maybe a comment on their LinkedIn post. And within 24 hours, they got a phone call from me. I'm all over you at the beginning. And that's usually where I got most of my meetings. However, I did the same thing again 2 weeks later on a different hypothesis. So you have to make sure that you're touching people on different channels every day, because you have to make sure that you're not easy to ignore. It's only pestering if you're not providing value. You also have to make sure that you're using multiple different types of media. The best is obviously 5, but as you can see, it's linearly. It goes up. The connection rate goes up the more channels that you use, different types of media. It's phone, email, LinkedIn, video, and sending them content. The content stuff are just value drops. It's not, hey, here's a blog post, read it and get back to me. It's, here's an excerpt from a blog post that is specific to you. Enjoy. No ask, no, do you want to talk about this? No, nothing. Just drop value. Keep moving on with your cadence. Easier to do when you know what the cadence is going to be. So that's what we look like when it comes to cadences. Obviously, there's software out there that you can build a cadence. You can automate it so that, if you know that on day 1 you're going to send an email, but you want to automate that email, that bump email for day 3, you don't want your reps to have to do that. Use a sales engagement tool to remind you who to follow up with and when. So as you plan out that customer journey, you're reminded what messages to send to who, when, and your reps are being more efficient. But yeah, when we look at this pit stop, does anybody have any specific questions on this? Any stats on inbound leads? The only stat that I have for you on inbound leads is that if you miss the 5-minute window for an email or a call, I believe the likelihood of converting that lead drops by 90%. Or at least we have seen, we saw almost 1,000% increase, I think. I'll get that stat. I'll get that specific stat for you. On being able to automate those inbound leads, and we saw massive increase when you can just, a lead comes in and then directly from the rep they get a message within 5 minutes. An average of 5 steps for converting an inbound lead. If that was your question, then I actually don't know. How many people from the same business got popping into a cadence at the same time? Do we have any data on that? No. That is that is very situational. I was a commercial SDR. So I was selling to companies of less than 750 employees. Of that 750, a maximum of 250 would be sellers. If I added 10 leaders into a cadence, I was all over that company. If I added 10 leaders, sales leaders in a cadence in Google, I'm a drop in the bucket. So it very much depends on the size of the company that you're targeting and the TAM within those companies. But do I have any specific stats? I'm afraid not. Will I be sharing the deck? Yep, we'll share it with James, and that can go out. And I hope that helps. The last thing I'm going to show you very quickly is just a couple of sort of random tips. And then, things that you might be able to help your sales reps book more meetings. And then we can just do some Q&As towards the end. I won't take the full hour from you guys if you don't need it. The first the first thing that I would recommend very quickly, double dialing. This is how you double your connect rate. Okay, it's very simple. You call someone. It rings out, it hits the voicemail. Don't leave a voicemail. 30 seconds later, call them again. It rings out, leave a voicemail. Here's the reason. Almost every iPhone has a do not disturb mode. That do not disturb mode does not allow single phone calls through. It does, however, allow double dials through, because a double dial is an emergency. Well, you got sales to make, so that's an emergency. Now, it is a technical thing. It is a solution to a technical problem. You could call once and that person never even hears their phone ring. That's what we need to do to double our connect rates. And whenever I tell this to SDRs, they get really scared because they say someone's going to get angry at me for calling twice and they think it's an emergency and it's just a cold call. One, that has never happened to me. In my 2.5 years of cold calling, nobody ever got annoyed for me double dialing. But that's anecdotal. Let's say it happens. The response to that is very simple. It's just, oh, I didn't get to leave a voicemail the first time. I called you back to leave a voicemail. But now that you're here, I'd love to tell you why I called. Nobody ever uses what I just said, but having that psychological safety kind of switches off that fear in someone's brain, and they're able to go and make double dials and connect to double the amount of people. So that's one tip that I would recommend for sellers to use. Second one is using video. If your sales reps aren't using video, especially in EMEA, if you're in the States, video is a little bit overused in the States. But if you're in EMEA, your reps need to be using videos. Vidyard, Loom, whatever. There's so many better people out there to explain how to do this than I will. The main message I'm going to give you, use your video. Also, if you're a full cycle rep, use video later on down the cycle as well. I'm an account manager now. Every point of contact that I'm trying to reach out to is getting a personalized video from me. The talk track is the same to everybody, but it's me sharing my face on their face. If I was sending a video to Kevin, don't worry, Kevin, I'm not actually going to try and sell you Salesloft. But if I was selling a video to Kevin, this is the thumbnail that he would see. It's his LinkedIn profile with my face. So that's something that I would recommend. Get your reps to start using videos. Start with your full cycle AEs. If someone asks for a proposal, send a video walking down through the proposal. That's the only main piece of advice I can give there. But however, when it comes to sending videos, there's one main thing that people think about, and it's firewalls. If you're selling to cybersecurity or InfoSec, don't put your video at the beginning of the cadence. Do put it in the middle of the cadence. So have your first email, or to enterprise, have your first email have no links in it whatsoever, not even in your signature, preferably no images in your signature, and send it out with one of the trigger templates. And then if you want the bump to have a video in it, or later on down the line, send personalized videos, do that, because you could get hit with firewalls. You need to warm it up first. Also, if you used a tool like Salesloft, we would then help you with your DCAS score, your DKIN score, but hey. Sorry, I'm a born seller. I've been selling Salesloft for too long. I couldn't pass up an opportunity. So that, I think, are just some quick tips that your reps can use to book more meetings, where you can double dial to make sure that your calls are actually connecting. Make sure that you're using video as a channel, but when you are using that video, make sure that you're putting it in the right place for a cadence. For me, anyone that wasn't a cybersecurity where it was less than 500 employees, no problems with firewalls whatsoever. If it was more than that, or they were cybersecurity, I kind of tended to swap it around and then have my first email be a personalized written email, and then my second one be a video bump. So those are some quick tips. Let me just see if there's anything else useful for you guys in down here. Just that one. No, look, the main thing that I would recommend just to keep is main takeaways from this. With your messages, keep them short. Short, casual emails win, but not only that, when you're building your triggers, these should be used on other channels as well. So if I were to cold call Kevin, I'm not starting off with, hey, Kevin, thanks for taking the call. Do you have 27 seconds? Yes, no, maybe. Look, the reason for the call is other sales directors like you. I've been speaking to other sales directors like you, and they're having these problems. I want to know if that's a problem with you. That's a standard SDR talk track that people have kind of gotten bored of. Instead, I'm calling Kevin. I'm going, hey, Kevin, thanks for taking the call. Look, the reason for the call is I can see that growth has started to slow down for you guys. I imagine you've got high targets for the year with less people to hit those targets with. I was wondering how I could earn 15 minutes to have a conversation about this. I haven't done any extra research, but now I'm being hyper personalized and hyper relevant to Kevin's situation. Worst case scenario, he more nicely tells me to go away. Best case scenario, he gives me the 30 seconds to listen to what I have to say. Look, thank you for joining on today's conversation. Make sure that you build out that library and that your cadence is a story as you walk through all the different elements of it and all the different hypotheses. The only ask that I have is drop me a connection request on LinkedIn. Not because I need to boost my LinkedIn connection followers by any way, shape, or form. Simply because what will happen is after today's session, you will go to sleep tonight, and for some reason, that young Irish guy that you did the presentation with will pop into your brain. You'll go, damn, I wish I had asked him a question. I wish I had asked him this specific thing. What does he think about this? And rather than you going to James and James going to me and then me going back to James and James going back to you, just hit me up on LinkedIn and connect with me there. I will probably reply with a voice note. But that's what it is. You
Bryan,
guys are asking a bunch of questions. Yeah, go ahead.
that was excellent. Kevin's wondering if he's got a template you can share on the 23-24 step you talked about. You can share. Can you see that question from Kevin?
There's a template I can share the 23-24 steps I talked about. Sorry, do you want a cadence build, Kevin? Do you want to know when you say a template? Do you mean you want an example of what a cadence should look like?
I think that's
If that's the question, I'll answer that. You just need to, gotcha. You already have Salesloft. Well, look at me selling for no reason, huh? What video tools do I recommend? Vidyard, 100%. And Vidu, VIDU. That's a different type of video, but I would recommend checking that out. My preferred call to action on an intro email, Gong are a competitor of ours, but if you Google Gong call to action sheet, they have a list of great ones. My favorite one is is this worth looking into? Worth a conversation, question mark, or would it be crazy to talk about this? Templated cadence. Kevin, I'm glad you asked. You guys can do just yourselves. Google Salesloft Labs. I'm not trying to sell you anything, but I'm fully indoctrinated into Salesloft just as an FYI. Google Salesloft Labs. These are free tools that we have built. And what you could do is go down to Cadence Builder. All you have to do then is plug in the industry that you're selling to, your company, what you do, who you're benefiting, your role in this. Oh no, I believe it's who you're selling to. Yes, who you're selling to, in what industry. Select the duration, select the intensity, and it will build the cadence for you. It will then give you that cadence. So rather than me trying to tell you what I think works, let the Salesloft cadence builder, which runs off of our data, do it for you. And then Kevin, if you already have Salesloft, they're actually pre-built templates inside of Salesloft. If you try and build a template and then go to, I think they're called frameworks. Yeah, they're called frameworks. You can bang those out as well. But yeah, look at guys. I can see people are jumping off. It's been great to meet you all. I'm glad that we got to do this conversation. Sounds like I can do to help. Let me know. I'm not an SDR anymore, so I won't try and sell you Salesloft. Yeah, it's been good to meet you all.
Well done. Really solid, really well organised. I wish some of the leaders we had on could take away some points from this talk. So excellent job, Bryan. Have a great day. Thanks very much. And well done to Sonia for organising this. Speak to you soon.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. And everybody use this information in your peer groups to talk about with those that haven't made it this week. See you later.